Sometimes all you need is a vision. And no, I don't mean a view of a Qdoba. So talking to an acquaintance of mine last week who owed me a favor for helping him out with something. Said, man, you're closing in on 1 million subscribers. You just seem to have everything locked down, going exactly the way you want it. What's going on? What am I doing wrong? And he said, oh, that's real simple. Give me your link and I'll check out your content. I'll give you about 45 minutes of my time because that's what I owe you. And I'll get back with you. Sweet. So he looks over all my content. You know, he kind of skims through a little bit of everything. And he's like, well, if I'm completely honest with you, you got a great solid foundation. It's all about building a bike, community, and you're actually taking everyone's feedback really serious and using that feedback into all your decisions. You got a great foundation. You got a big handful of guys with multiple 100,000 miles under their seat on baggers, willing to take time out of their lives to give you some feedback and help you with your project. You need to take advantage of that. I'm like, well, I intended to do that. It's like, yeah, but you're doing it all wrong. It's like, you don't realize, you know, you've got like Picasso level painters all showing up to the same building to put their personal touches and experience onto the same canvas, but you never even told them what they're painting. All you showed them was the canvas. I'm like, okay, I think I sort of get what you're talking about. He says, okay, are you familiar with Goldzilla? I'm like, you're not talking about Blockhead's bike, are you? So yeah, I'm talking. I'm like, you and your big lofty pew pew channel, you watch Blockhead? It's like, yeah, dude, I ride, just nobody knows it. Oh. It's like, could you give me a vision of what Blockhead had in mind from the very beginning when he started the Goldzilla project? Like, yeah, he needed something that could commute to work but would still be his style, you know, the whole black and gold thing, have enough room for all of his work equipment, but still let him push the boundaries of agility and power on an M8 Softail. It's like, well, if you can do that instantly with Blockhead's videos and his Goldzilla, that means he did his job right. You're failing. Figure out how to tell all these painters that you invited to the canvas what you're trying to build. It'll make their jobs easier and give them a real sense of purpose other than just helping you make some random decisions, because you're all over the place. You're like, oh, I think I want to black this, and oh, I think I want this kind of seat, and but you're not telling them what your end goal is. Take a few days off of filming, figure out what your vision is. And then he laughs and he quotes me and he's like, and then you can touch those people in their special feeling places that you don't talk about on YouTube. I laughed pretty hard. I'm like, he did actually watch my video. So I guess that's what we're talking about today. What the vision really is for this bike. I pretty much narrowed it down to 3 things. First and foremost, I want this thing to crush miles. And right behind that, without sacrificing any comfort and luxury, I want this to be a performance bagger. I don't mind having 2 windscreens, 2 seats. Those are easy, quick swaps, not expensive. I'm good with that. But then a close third behind luxury and performance bagger, I also want this bike to be recognizable. You know, a lot of motovloggers, while they were out at Sturgis, made jokes about how they couldn't find their bikes. They're like, what? Well, why would I expect it to be hard to find an all blacked out Harley at a Sturgis rally? And that put it in my head like, yeah, I want a bike that if I'm cruising down the interstate headed to a rally or, you know, some show, go see some family, anything, I want a bike that people will recognize. You know, I don't care how many subscribers I got, but if one of my subscribers sees me rolling down the road, I definitely want them to pull the whole, dude, was that Wyo? So I got inspired by a movie, and it was this moment where they talked about someone that was infamous, and the other guy's like, what's infamous? Oh, infamous is a lot like famous, just more famous. So that inspired me to finally pick a name and know what this bike is going to truly be. I would like to introduce all of you to the infamous El Guapo, loosely translated to the handsome one. So as we continue to work together on this bike, I would like you guys to keep that spirit in mind. Luxury and comfort above all else. As much performance bagger as we can put into this thing together without taking away from the mile crushing capabilities, and then just god awful chrome everything. There's a few bikes that I've really liked lately that I've seen at shows or online that had this perfect balance between the old Cholo, South California, South Texas, Mexico style, also known as Vikla, but then they hooked their bike up like a performance bagger and blacked everything out. I want to do the exact opposite of that. I want ungodly, annoying chrome like the Vikla Cholo style, but I want to do it in a true performance setup. But before I head out of here, I really want to thank you guys for all your contributions, especially Jeff. You know, all the exchanges and emails that we've had over the last week, really talking about your experiences and what you liked about your selections for an almost identical bike and what you didn't like, has really helped to clarify a lot of things for me, brother, and I appreciate you. But the last little magic trick that I want to share with you guys is yesterday I ran down to my local dealer, because the more miles I put on this thing, the more I realize what I thought was perfect bars, I really want these things up there for both performance and crushing miles. I really want about a 14-inch bar. 16 is just a little too much for me, and 12 is just a little too little. 14 felt just right when I jumped on one at the local dealer. So I didn't know if I wanted to go T-bars or if I wanted to go something else. So I ran down to High Country Harley of Frederick, Colorado, paid them a half-hour labor, and they punched some magic buttons into my computer, lied to it, convinced it to lie to itself, and now it thinks it's a CVO. I never have to mess with this thing ever again. It does absolutely nothing except lock the forks. And while the forks are locked, I can click a button and click a button. So that way, if I feel like ripping all this out and throwing T-bars in, it's gonna work. The problem is with the 2021s, the ECM is programmed quite a bit differently from previous years in the Rushmore project. So if I rip this whole thing out, it's going to throw codes. And I really don't want to deal with that, so I'm probably gonna go with either the factory 4714s or the why does my mind always blank when I'm really trying to drive home a point? Or the Clockworks 14s, which I've never actually seen in person. But the idea of being able to adjust the rake and being able to adjust the handlebar angle seems pretty intriguing, but at the same time it might contribute to weaknesses that I don't want. So if you've got experience with either two of those bars, that is the question of the day. Because if I get the right feedback on those, I might just pull the trigger on new bars tomorrow. And then if you feel like it and you know some magical piece that I can just pull the whole ignition switch out, leave the ignition console in, and put something, even if it's this whole entire console area, or it's just a replacement for this horseshoe that goes all the way closed with a little bump in it, whatever I got to do to kind of clean this area up. If you've got ideas on that, I'm lost. I have searched every corner of the internet that I know exists and can't find anything. I never even knew that it was just a simple CVO ignition setup flash in order to be able to rip all this out. Everybody shows themselves throwing T-bars onto road glides, but nobody ever says, oh yeah, we just had to flash it so that it works like a Softail or a CVO Touring and you're good to go. So I thought I would share that with you guys if you were interested in doing that, and if you know anything else beyond that that'll make this thing look pretty without the ugly switch that I hate, I'd appreciate you on that one. Oh, and I did order a seat. I made my decision based on all the feedback that I got from you. And when I took that answer to my local upholstery guy, he gave me a massive amount of feedback on exactly why it was, in fact, the perfect decision. And we'll get more into that next week when I get that in. Also got another episode of Monsters and Motorcycles coming, and I will be giving away both of, or one of, the Rick Rack fairing GoPro mounts, because after a couple thousand miles I absolutely hated both of them, and I have temporarily switched angles until I come up with something better. Appreciate your time and all that you have put forward to help me with this project, and I look forward to seeing all of you at rallies or just general meetups. You know, a couple of you guys are actually pretty darn close to where I live. you guys want to throw back a beer, record it all, and have a discussion about the plans and clear things up for everybody else that's contributing to this project with us, I'd be happy to do that with you guys. I don't have to bring a security team. I'm not really some paranoid freak. And I'll see you guys in a few days.